And the river still shines and shimmers in the light as it did in our grandfather's day, when they rode all night to fish in the morning and lived in Willapa Bay.
Okay, guys, we are starting our last hour. I just want to say thank you to Liberty Theater. Thank you to all the volunteers that make it so people like me can just show up in town and enjoy this. And thank you to you, the audience. You guys have been awesome, and it just makes it such a privilege to be up here. So now I want to introduce Brownsmead's Flats from Brownsmead's, Oregon. These guys have been doing music for 40 years together, so please welcome them, Brownsmead's Flats.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming out to the FisherPoets Gathering.
40 years, do you think we'll do this right?
Well, I'm the new kid on the block. It's only been 20 for me, but I was a sub for a while. So, you know.
No pressure.
You're on, Dan.
I'm on.
Okay.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Sail away, sail away, sail away home.
Sun's gonna rise this morning, moon's gonna shine tonight. If I could see it one more time, I'd dance in the glorious light. Rain will fall, the snow will blow, sun will bake us dry. It's all part of the circle, no need to wonder why.
Sail away, sail away, sail away home. Sail away, sister, sail away home.
Mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, brothers, sisters too. We take a place for a short time and then we start anew. We view each birth with joy and hope, begins another day. But soon our time is up and it's time to sail away.
Sail away, sail away, sail away home. Sail away, sister, sail away home.
Sail away,
Sail away, sail away home. Sail away, sister, sail away home.
I put it in a jar for you, the colors and the light, to take along your journey and to help you through the night. And as you sail out one last time, the beauty you will see. Your wings are gonna lift you and finally set you free.
Sail away, sail away, sail away home. Sail away, sister, sail away home. Sail away, sail away, sail away home. Sail away, sister, sail away home.
We'll all sail away someday, sail away home.
Thank you very much.
Move these things closer. Is that okay? We like being close. Hey, that's too close.
Well, these aren't all fishing songs, but they're pretty much all seafaring songs. So this song is one that I wrote, I guess, 18 years ago.
18.
For the
your math is excellent.
Impeccable. I wrote it for the centennial of the stranding of the British bark Peter Iredale. So it's called The Ballad of the Peter Iredale.
Oh, clever.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Oh, there.
1, 2, 3, 4. day was 1906. In the month of October, she'd sailed north from Mexico in 28 days. Her master, Captain Lawrence, was a good man and sober. Her crew was 25 brave boys plus 2 stowaways. Product of the Ritson yards, her lines, they were handsome. The largest ship that ever built, a 4-masted bark. She measured near 300 feet from bowsprit to transom. For 16 years she'd sail the seas through daylight and dark. It's the sand boys, she's hit the bloody sand boys. She's caught up in the breakers on the flats of shore. It's the sand boys, she'll never leave the land boys. Mighty Peter Iredale will sail no more. The Tillamook Rock Light was spied at 3 in the morning. All hands are called up on the deck to shorten the sails. While waiting for the pilot boat, without any warning, the wind veered to the west and blew a full-on gale. She had 1,000 tons of ballast under her hatches. Still she could not claw her way back out through the waves. She soon was in the surf line, taking breakers in batches, and all aboard were looking out at watery graves. It's the sand boys, she's hit the bloody sand boys. She's caught up in the breakers on the flats of shore. It's the sand boys, she'll never leave the land boys. Mighty Peter Iredale will sail no more.
Hollow iron mizzenmast was snapped by the impact. All the mizzen tom pamper crashed down on the men. While they dodged the falling spars, you knew every man Jack was certain that the Iredale would never sail again. By morning light, Point Adams sent a crew in a surfboat. Braving wind and wave, they soon saved every hand. And though the optimist among them said she could still float, Peter Iredale was firmly stuck in the sand.
The salver stripped the steel plating off of her framing and left her stem and bowsprit pointing up at the sky. For decades upon decades she endured their remaining, reminding us the Iredale was too tough to die. During the war she was dressed up in barbed wire, while soldiers in helmets patrolled on the sand. She witnessed the flash of the submarine's fire, the only attack upon the U.S. mainland.
It's the sand boys, she's hit them, caught up in the breakers on the flats of shore. It's the sand boys, she'll never leave the land boys. Mighty Peter Iredale will sail no more.
Perhaps this old hulk has been spared for some purpose, while others about her were swallowed up whole. Some quirk of current kept her battered bones on the surface, her holy forecastle crumbling as the years took their toll. For over a century, her ribs have lain rusting, a relic and reminder of the lost age of sail. While waves wash about her and storm winds are gusting, we see and we remember the Peter Iredale.
It's the sand boys, she's hit the bloody sand boys. She's caught up in the breakers on the flats of shore. It's the sand boys, she'll never leave the land boys. Mighty Peter Iredale will sail no more. The mighty Peter Iredale will sail no more.
Thank you.
Okay, here's a song I wrote. I used to say I wrote this for the salmon, which I did, but I think I wrote it for all the anadromous fish that come in and out of the Columbia River. And there are a lot of them.
Ready to do something else.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Let the rivers run wild. Let the rivers run free. Let the salmon swim unhindered to and from the sea. Let the rivers run wild. Let the rivers run free. Let the salmon swim unhindered to and from the sea. Woody Guthrie once wrote down a famous song about the Columbia River's power turning darkness to dawn. If he'd known the terrible price we paid, I wonder what verses he might have made.
The mighty dams that man has built are slowly being filled up with trash and silt. No place for salmon, eggs, or milk. The Columbia's but a reservoir.
Let the rivers run wild. Let the rivers run free. Let the salmon swim unhindered to and from the sea. Let the rivers run wild. Let the rivers run free. Let the salmon swim unhindered to and from the sea. Now picture, if you will, the Pacific Northwest as a station having a cardiac arrest. The dams that clog its major artery may force us to perform major surgery. The salmon represent our cellular strife. Like the blood in our veins, they bring to us life. Their struggle to survive is our struggle too. The question remains, what can we do? Let the rivers run wild. Let the rivers run free. Let the salmon swim unhindered to and from the sea. Let the rivers run wild. Let the rivers run free. Let the salmon swim unhindered to and from the sea.
Perhaps the solution is not out of reach. The answer may lie in the breach. When we restore what was there before, the Columbia will be a river once more. Let the rivers run. Columbia will be a river once more. Let the rivers run. Columbia will be a river once more. Let the rivers run. The Columbia will be a river once more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think they're breaching one of the first dams on the Snake River as we speak. We'll see how it all works out for everybody, and we hope it works for all.
Okay, this next tune we did not write, but we love it. It was written by Mary Garvey, who is a performer here at Fisher Poets. And as a special treat to you all, we're not going to play our instruments.
Close enough?
Yep, close enough.
Okay, we'll give this a try. It isn't very far from Astoria's bar, but a very long journey it can be. It can start at the mouth of a mighty blue river and end at the bottom of the sea. And the river still shines and shimmers in the light as it did in our grandfather's day, when they rode all night to fish in the morning and lived in Willapa Bay.
When the tide is rough, so very, very rough, so rough that you cannot stand, it drives a little fish right into the nets and the boats right into the sand. And the river still shines and shimmers in the light as it did in our grandfather's day, when they rode all night to fish in the morning and lived in Willapa Bay. In the mist and the rain, with our labor and our pain, we know what the fishing here is worth.
It is worth more than gold.
When we fill our hold,
It is one
of the treasures of the earth.
And the river still shines and shimmers in the light as it did in our grandfather's day, when they rode all night to fish in the morning and lived in Willapa Bay. It isn't very far to Astoria's bar, but a very long journey it can be. It can start at the mouth of a mighty blue river and end at the bottom of the sea. And the river still shines and shimmers in the light as it did in our grandfather's day, when they rode all night to fish in the morning and lived in Willapa Bay. And the river still shines and shimmers in the light as it did in our grandfather's day, when they rode all night to fish in the morning and lived in Willapa Bay.
I think we're done, boys. I think we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll be playing tomorrow night at Kala and then also at Xanadu. I think we're off. We're done?
So I don't know if it needs to be up higher. Okay, wow, that was pretty impressive. Our next performer grew up in Anacortes in a fishing family. Spent every summer fishing in Puget Sound and in Alaska, and he's been writing poetry since he was a teenager. So please give a great welcome to Gary Keister.
Greetings and thank you so much for being here. I know the performers perform so much better when they have a lively crowd like this, and we all really appreciate it. In my 80-plus years, I've seen this industry take a lot of twists and turns. And over the years, I journaled as I was on these boats, and so I've portrayed a lot of the stories that I know from these years of fishing and through poetry. So I will read a few of my works. The first one's called The Laundry. And it's about a highline Native American fisherman out of Hoona, Alaska, who would put his nets in the most turbulent of waters and always seemed to catch fish and never lost his gear. It's called The Laundry. Wise Joe White stands wide atop the fog-enshrouded bridge, his purse seiner adrift, awaiting the flood tide in Middle Pass. Currents and eddies are fierce in the Laundry, and setting too early, the turbulence and hurly-burlies will drag his precious net underwater, wrapping and wringing it up like a dish rag. Joe studies the white water as it swirls and churns, hemorrhaging energy as dense cream foam clings to the barnacle-laden rocks. When abruptly the foam moves seaward, he grabs the wheel, signals crew, and spins the Jericho. About at full throttle, waving a deckman to yank the Canadian release, discharging the 250-fathom seine into the torrent waters, as each crewman prepares for grueling high-speed work, eager to make another set on this perfect tide, expecting to plug their hold with humpies and silver-bright dog salmon. Lost. The skip slid silently through Grenville Channel, the constant purr of the yellow cat thrusting against invisible currents. From his port side perch, window wide, he breathed in the sea and witnessed a phosphorus light show while she plowed across a frenzied, fiery glow. He revered the ocean, as did his ancestors, and each spring anxiously awaited the trip north to the rich fishing grounds surrounding Kodiak Island. Standing in the cramped pilot house, he stretched and placed his ubiquitous coffee mug on the compass shelf, murmuring something about going astern to pee. And now, decades later, only the shadowy Black Sea owns the mystery of back aft on that calm spring night in Grenville Channel. Lupine. Leaving the Aleutians flying high, not a cloud in the cobalt sky, soaring and drifting like an eagle, feeling strangely very regal. Above the mountains, thick with ice, far below, a sand-dredged crevice, flushed with lupine in grand array, swarms of lusty lupine in early May, their tapering spikes of blue and white, pointing at heaven like guns of fright. And when dreaming today, I remember still that bolt from the blue and nature's thrill. Salmon seiner. Flood tide pulling strong and hard, nets heavy. Early gold sun shadows glisten as scraggly sick as cypress crew up before dawn, defying bone-chilling glacier winds blowing through layers of wool and rubber. The icy Black Sea reveals no trace of life as crewmen pull ferociously on strained hemp lines, the boat heaving and groaning. The crew tugs at the web as it rolls over the steely, paretic power block, swinging precariously from atop the boom. A tall, lanky kid balances gracefully on the edge of the turntable, meticulously stacking Spanish corks in perfect, symmetrical rows. Out 50 fathoms, the sockeye jumps along the cork line as others fin in the center of the seine. The pace quickens and emotions build. A silvery salmon emerges gilded amesh, and another, and another. The tension mounts. At the end of the seine is dragged aboard. All hands rush to the bulwarks. There are thousands, a silver horde of the finest blood-red sockeye. This is called Shipwreck. They did not escape blind Horn's hate. Crew despondent and forlorn, despair unbridled. She heads towards the storm's maelstrom. Each tempest exceeds the other. With mounting force, born to destroy their voyage. Hammered by winds and the vastest swell ever seen. On the stern, a looming sea. Off the bow, a terrifying mountain of water. Her hull pitches, listing over, receiving the sea fore and aft from gunwale to gunwale. As each approaching wave strikes with awful violence, laying her on her side before righting. The waves pounding her as she forges forward, unwittingly upon a succession of reefs, shattering her rudder as another gigantic wave sweeps the ship as she lurches ahead thrashing. The sea pours into her hold, water up to the hatches, the deafening waves slaughtering all in sight, enveloping her as she hurtles into a cluster of jagged rocks, ripping her apart, masts falling, dragging her over, windows explode, planks splitter, decks cave, water gushes, filling each cranny. A congress of waves repeat their attack, while nauseating sounds of the hull grind against the rocks. Wrecked. My last one is called The Ebb. He visited the rock on the stormy, stony shoreline as long as he could remember. It never appeared to change, yet it did, little by little, at each ebb and flood, as harsh seas whittled out the perfect pew for a boy and a granddad. Now he gazes solo, regarding the curling white water, whispering beneath his black hip boots, recalling how the sea had fashioned him, sailing with the old man from Puget Sound to the Gulf and out west to the unrelenting Bering Sea. Now the water flows deliberately away as life ebbs, one particle at a time, evoking life's marvels and the significance of the coarse-grained granite, hosting the tiniest bits of life that encrusts body and soul. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. That was really good. So we are down to our final performer, and quite a performer he is. Several years ago, they dubbed Ron the sheriff of Fisher Poets. And since I usually stick around Oregon for a little bit, I rent a car, so I end up driving him around. And so they called me his deputy. And that may seem like an honor, but nothing good ever happens to Festus. And basically, I'm his Festus. At the same time, I challenge you to find a kinder heart than Mr. Ron McDaniel. I am blessed to call him my friend, and I welcome him to the stage. Please welcome him with me. Ron McDaniel.
Just another happy cowboy. A few short years ago, I met some Fisher poets. They were performing down in Elko. Follow us to Astoria. Like mythical sirens, they would plead. Well, I didn't realize they had uncovered a deep, abiding need. I had emotions I couldn't understand, so I went to see a shrink. I wasn't sure who I was anymore. I was right up to the brink of utter desperation, keeping something deep inside, these feelings that I'd hidden because of cowboy pride. The psychiatrist asked about my mother, which is where they always start. No, I really didn't want to do it. I felt I had to play my part. See, my mom's afraid of water because she never learned to swim. Why, if I'd just so much as get wet, her countenance was quite grim. And ever since I was a little boy, she never let me near the sea. Promise me you'll never leave dry land. That was her constant plea. So I became a cowboy, a rootin' tootin' buckaroo. If she'd had her way, I'd never be here with the likes of you. One summer, I went set netting with the brothers, the Broderick crew. Father John, though a humble guy, you must give the devil his due. In the winter, he's a mild-mannered teacher at the school. But summers on the Nushagak, he'll work you like a rented mule. Well, I took my son up with me to let him taste the fishing life. Well, when we got to Dillingham, we met a couple fellas that caused me lots of strife. They both wore cowboy hats, but they wouldn't engage in conversation. In fact, they ignored me like I was speaking Chinese. That added to my frustration. Why, then stuck-up cowboys, they wouldn't even utter a single word. I thought they'd give us a bad reputation among fishermen, so I thought I better cut them from the herd. I said, son, this could get ugly, but I'm going to clean them cowboys' clocks. He said, Dad, they ain't real cowboys, they're Russian Orthodox. Well, we only fished a few days, but it sure was enough to know I liked wearing 620s. I looked good in extra tufts. I wanted to be a fisherman. I tried with all my might. But did I really like the work or the clothes they wear? Am I a transvestite? And what about my buckaroo buddies when they find I've got a passion for the ocean? Did those fisher poets slip something in my drink, some secret nautical potion? Did those cowboys know as we trailed those cattle down the trail that underneath my cowboy hat I sported a ponytail? Yeah, I'm a cowboy in a skiff. I never will grow up. Seems like fishermen and cowboys drink from the same darn cup. And after many visits with my therapist, his diagnosis is quite sensational. I don't have to choose between cowboys or fishermen. He said I'm bivocational. Thank you. I ain't ever done a wardrobe change on stage here. Yeah, I don't hoop and holler. I ain't used to getting dressed with nobody around. My wife even turns the light off, so. Adrift and floating, then washed up on the shore. Most folks don't even know what this was once used for. But to the fisherman, it's clear what washed up from the brine. See, cowboys would call this a rope, but you and I know it's a line. We both use it to catch things we want to keep. Cowboys catch wild cows, and fishermen harvest the bounty from the deep. I often look at this line and I wondered how many crabs did it pull in? Did it make their wallets fat with cash, or are they still much too thin? This line's been used for roping cows, pulling in big pots, for lashing down our gear and tying things with knots. The same line you use to do your job can be the one to kill you. The rope we catch a cow with can be the one to spill you. Now, there ain't no guarantee you'll always catch something in your loop. Some days you're eating ribeyes, but most days you're slurping soup. But see, there's a connection between us when we hold it in our hand. When you're out there on that ocean and I'm back here on this land. You know, most folks think we're different. In some ways, I think we are. But the distance in between us is really not that far. It don't really matter whether you call this a rope or a line. You've been blessed to live the life you live as I've been blessed to live mine. Now, to most folks, this is just a crab line that washed up on the shore. But to an aging cowboy, it just means a whole lot more. Oh, you can tell it's been used a lot. You can see that it's fraying. But it reminds me of the fisherman, always sticking and always staying. I told Gino I think he had to head somewhere else. I told him I was going to mention him. That ain't no made-up poem. For the knot workshop one year, they found some crab line washed up on the shore, and they cut a bunch of it into lengths for teaching folks how to tie knots. And if you hadn't ever done that workshop tomorrow, you sure ought to go to it. It's a neat deal. Cowboys and fishermen, they always like tying stuff up, right? So it's a neat deal. But they got done and had a few coils, and Gino, give me this. Said, can you do anything with this? And I said, yeah. I tied a Honda in it. And it's not exactly perfect for roping cows. It's a little bit lightweight. We get windy, but every spring I go catch something with it. I try to catch a day that's not windy, and I might be at a Brandon. We might catch some 150-pound calves and drag them to the fire, but I've roped a 600-pound yearling just once every spring, just to have this connection to these fishermen, to think about Gino coiling me up some crab line that washed ashore. I wondered what I could do with it. And I would tell you this, it's easier to tell with Gino not here. He and I come from this generation. He's a little older than I am. I'm not just humbled that Gino would turn out to become a friend, but so many of these men and women here that fish just kind of embrace this cowboy they drug up years ago and invite me back every year. And I really did go fish with John Broderick and his boys. And I mean, it's a prized possession. If you don't fish, you won't know what this is. It won't mean nothing to you. But from 2010, and Doreen told me they don't even give you these with your fishing licenses anymore, but I got our fishing license where we fish there in Bristol Bay. Still kept them. I'm proud of that. It don't make me a fisherman because I spent several days there, right? But I got to do something that less than 1% of the world got to do. I got to go be side by side, shoulder by shoulder with some set netters that were hauling in fish. And boy, did we have a run. They plugged the nets. It was quite a deal. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that exposure. I'm grateful, for Gino, Dave Dinsmore, Jay, John. They've just been so kind to share their world with me. And so we come from that generation where we didn't have to be touched and petted to feel loved when we was growing up. And I don't mean nothing about that now. In fact, I got 4 kids, all of them boys, except for 3 of them, and it started with my girls. I hugged on my girls, and then my boy. Had my boy 10 years later, and he's a grown man now, and just lives 25 minutes from me. But when I see him, I hug and kiss that boy every time, every day. We see each other, right? But, yeah, thanks. I ain't saying that to impress nobody. I'm saying it to kind of set you up for it. It ain't always that easy. I got in this hugging mode, and a few years ago, Gino come off the stage, and I hugged him. And then we had this writer's workshop, and this is the actual notes from the writer's workshop. Did any of you go to the workshops today? Boy, yeah. Were they good? Yeah. Radio audience, you can't see all the hands up everywhere. But I'd encourage you to go to the workshops. I love to go to the writing workshops. And I went to John Broderick's writing workshop, and he's always kind of stretches you. I don't know how to write. I'm from Arkansas. I can barely read. This is being broadcast across the world by KMUN, and I am making my home state proud. But ain't nobody I know still awake, so so John was kind of stretching us, and he was like, show them, don't tell them with your poetry, with your words, write lines that show but don't tell. And he said, write one long descriptive line of something and then follow it with a short line. So here's what I wrote the day after I hugged Gino. Hugging Gino was like single-handedly trying to move a recliner chair through a door that was too small. An awkward moment passed. Hey, we're going to wrap it up with this. You've been a great audience. If you're listening on KMUN, this is it for the night. Be sure to tune in tomorrow. I really don't read a lot of my poetry. I try to memorize it, but I wrote this one during the COVID, and I just kind of finished it recently. The COVID, on the one hand, and I hate to admit this because it was so hard on so many people, but on the one hand, it was pretty good for me because I travel. I don't just cowboy, but I sell horse drugs and vaccines to veterinarians and travel around a lot. And so the COVID, everybody had to stay home. I'd never stayed home that much in 40 years of marriage. And I would tell you this, and I ain't saying it because it's on the radio because my wife's not listening anyway, but I loved it. I loved being home. I didn't know if I'd like being home that many days in a row, and I was home a long time. But it was an odd time. Things were different. I couldn't go day work. I couldn't go cowboy for some ranches that I'd cowboy for in Kansas and Oklahoma because they wouldn't let you come out of state. They were trying to keep everything, and so I was home a lot. And the other thing we had in Arkansas and in the middle part of the country, we had a meat shortage. I don't know if y'all had a meat shortage during the COVID, but you couldn't get meat. And if you raise cattle like me and you take them to your local butcher, he was 300 days out for me to get an appointment to get some cattle butchered. So we were running short on meat, and I was going crazy. I think I was losing my mind. And this is a poem I wrote as a result. I think my horse and I were kind of communicating with each other through this period. And I've got several horses, but I have this one mare that I kind of use the most, and I think she's kind of connected to me. And so Meezie's going to read the part of my mare.
Under a little bit of protest.
A horse whisperer I'll never claim to be, but yesterday my horse spoke telepathically. Now, I'm sure many of you look at me with doubt. Before you say I'm crazy, just please hear me out. Now, it could be this isolation that's given me cabin fever. I can't stop these horse voices in my head. I'm an unwilling receiver.
Hey, Ron, what's the deal? Why you around the house so much? You often walk out in my pasture to give me a pat or gentle touch. I'm alarmed at this behavior. Are you selling me to another ranch? I'm sorry I shouldn't have bucked you off or run you under that branch.
Relax, I tell her. You've not been sold. I'm simply sheltering in place. There's a virus among us that limits my contact with the human race.
Is that the reason you put on gloves and walk around in a mask? You're busy mowing, fixing things, and catching up on tasks? And what's with riding me every day, never leaving town? I'm sick of your constant training and lunging me round and round.
Oh, quit your belly aching. This is exercise you need.
Just take me to my stall where I can munch on hay and feed. And Ron, I gotta tell you, those gloves just make me nervous. The anxiety they cause me is really a disservice.
Oh, I see. Doc only wears a glove when he comes to give you care. It's to protect you both from germs. Now, don't you think that's fair?
You call it fair when Doc comes out to clean the gelding's funk, then snaps on a glove and without shame starts handling his junk? And when he wraps my tail, he ain't decorating me for a parade. He starts lubing up his glove. I won't say where he'll invade.
Well, COVID-19's tough on us all. I'm really beginning to worry. The stores are out of meat. They better fix that in a hurry.
Oh, great. I'm stressed already and you spring this news on me? Just open up the gate and turn your back. I need the chance to flee. Meat starvation does crazy things. It'll cause men to lose their mind. It creates a panic, a zombie-like state. They'll gnaw any bone they find.
My point exactly. History tells us the unspeakable effect on the mass. You see, long ago some folks got lost. They were searching for a pass, known as the Donner Party. They ran out of meat, and as the story goes, they had to eat some humans from their head down to their toes. And now I see folks leering at me. I fear it's my flesh they crave. Well, I'll never let them see me sweat, though. I'll be confident and brave.
Oh, in that one event, the humans were main courses, but every time folks get lost and desperate, they always eat their horses. People forget this mighty country was built on the horse's back. We plowed your fields, cleared your forests. We had to haul your gear to pack. We helped you gather your cattle. We carried you off to war. We pranced in parades. We carried your children. We did your every chore.
I don't dispute what you say, but we need something else to eat. And through the centuries, man has developed an appetite for meat.
May I suggest you eat your dog? I hear it tastes like chicken. I know at first it sounds absurd, it makes your heartbeat quicken, but roast of canine could sure catch on. Please just think it over. We could market it through a fast food chain and call it the McRover.
Meezie Hermansen, folks.
Now, I have to say one thing, because Ron's people are asleep, but I live in Alaska and my people are not, and I am a veterinarian. I do not condone the McRover.
Thank you, Meezie. Hey, thank you. That's our show for tonight. Thank you for coming to Astoria. Thanks for coming to Fisher Poets. We'll see you tomorrow night.
White Maine spruce, grain so even, you can almost hear the music now. Sidewood bent in the water steaming, and the easy slide of a dovetail saw. I learned these skills, but no one taught me. I make guitars that others play. Too much rain and darn long winters, but I love the work of a luthier's trade.
Thanks so much for talking with us today. Can you tell me your name and what town you're from?
Yeah, my name's Karen, and I'm from Wheeler, Oregon, so just down the coast.
So Karen from Wheeler, how many years have you been coming to Fisher Poets?
This is my second year. Yeah, so brought my husband this year. So hopefully he'll enjoy it as much as I did.
So it was good enough to bring your husband back. What is it you particularly liked about the performances last year?
I think the variety, and I actually got up on stage at the Liberty Theater for the, I don't know what they called it, instant poetry or something. It was fun.
I'm so impressed, and now I'm like extra excited that I stopped you on the street to talk to you. So tell me about that experience. How did that go? Did you win? Did you storm off stage? Did you?
No, I did not win. However, I think everybody was a winner because it was so much fun. And I was here with a group of girls, so all my women friends were there. I'm not sure if they're laughing with me or at me, but it was fun. It was a good time.
Well, what would you tell someone if they were thinking about coming to the Fisher Poets Gathering?
Definitely do, and stay over, check out the shops. You know, Astoria's a fun town. It really is. So, you know, we're semi-locals, but it's still fun to poke around and see what's in all the shops.
Thank you so much for taking a quick minute to talk with us.
You bet.